A lot of people ask me what my favourite brand of vinyl is or what the best one is, and it's so hard to give a definitive answer because I personally use different brands for different things. So I thought it was about time that I do a side-by-side comparison of some of the most well-known brands around and show you the differences as well as the similarities, I guess. So I'm going to be comparing Cricut Smart Vinyl, Ritrama Permanent Vinyl, Oracle 651, Tech Wrap, and Caesar Easy PSV Starling. Somehow I've managed to collect all 5 in similar shades of pink, so I'm going to compare the same colour of each one to try and make it fair. So first let's see how they cut and weed. I'm just going to cut one larger design using a thin font and then one smaller design using block letters, and I'll use my Cricut and the standard vinyl setting to do it, and we'll see how that goes. So I'm just cutting each piece down and I'll cut them all at the same time on the same mat. If you're at the beginning of your Cricut journey and want to learn more about how to make vinyl decals and lots of other projects, then do check out my members only area, Cutting Machine Confident, which has tons of short tutorials, cheat sheets, free designs, discount codes and more. I'll add a link to the description. This is Caesar PSV, which I only had a sheet of, so that was easy to cut down. This is the Cricut Smart Vinyl. I will bear in mind when I'm comparing them that this one is a bit thicker so that it can be cut on a Cricut without a mat. This is Oracle 651. The roll is a bit wider than other ones, which makes it slightly harder to cut on my trimmer, and it's so tightly wound that it curls itself up and is a bit harder to stick down, so that is something to be aware of. This is the Ritrama, which is the perfect size for my trimmer and is on a bigger roll, so is easier to flatten out. Then finally the Tech Wrap, which you do have to take the plastic cover off, and only at this point did I realise it was a much darker pink. So that is again something to note if you're using Tech Wrap. It's also a bit wasteful having to get rid of that cover, but it does keep the vinyl free of marks and dust, which my other rolls sometimes do have problems with. So then I just cut them all on my Cricut, just with a standard fine point blade and using the standard vinyl setting as mentioned. You can just about see here that the thin T lines on the Caesar vinyl and also the Ritrama vinyl have shifted slightly, but let's see how they weed. So starting with Caesar Easy PSV Starling, the thin T's were a little bit tricky to weed, and this second one is a bit all over the place, and the one lifted up as well, but it actually looks fine, but not the quickest to weed. Now for test 2, again this T pulled up a bit, but otherwise this was really easy to weed, and I also really like the colour of this one. Now onto Cricut Smart Vinyl. You can't tell as much on the video, but the backing on this is so much less flexible than the others, which is good if you don't want to use a mat, but I just find it so much harder to weed. The T's on this did cut really well, but again, pulled up when weeding quite a bit. Overall, it looked fine though. And test 2 was pretty easy to weed as well. Now onto Oracle. It does make it a bit trickier to deal with being rolled like this, but obviously if you got this in sheets or on larger rolls, you wouldn't have that issue. But saying that, this actually was the easiest one to weed so far. The T's look great as well. Now for Ritrama, which is the vinyl I mostly use for my decal business. It was actually a bit tricky to get those T's weeded, and that second one came out really dodgy, and the test 2 pulled up a bit too. I was a bit disappointed by this, as usually Ritrama is so reliable, but this did make me reconsider what I should be using for my business slightly. Then finally Tech Wrap. This again is a bit less flexible than other brands because it's a more plasticky backing rather than paper, so it can sometimes make it slightly trickier to weed, but still fairly smooth, and it has cut really well. And the test 2 was okay too. Then all of the in-betweens were really easy to weed. The only one I had slight issues with was the Ritrama. And so overall they all look pretty similar and have cut fairly well in both thin and block fonts. So now to apply, I'm going to just add them to this notebook, which is fairly easy to apply to. And I tend to always use this medium tack transfer tape. Okay, so starting with Caesar, backing paper comes away super easily and also sticks really easily too. can't complain at all. I'm just going to do the thin font designs as all of the test 2s should pretty much stick the same. Now onto Oracle. Slight sticking, but again, really easy to take the backing off, really easy to apply. I'll get a new piece of transfer tape for this next one to make it fair. So Cricut Smart Vinyl, this is always really tricky to get off the backing. And I've tried it with Cricut transfer tape too. Because the backing paper is so inflexible, it's hard to push the vinyl onto the tape and it just takes forever. So I think if you want to use this, you would want to try a much higher tack tape to deal with it. It does stick really well once it's on the tape though. Now onto Tech Wrap. I do like that you can see the backing grid through the front, so it's really easy to line up with my gridded tape. However, this one also didn't come off super quick, and again the backing isn't as flexible as the Oracle or Caesar, so it does just take some cajoling. I also had to re-stick some bits of it, which I would usually try and avoid at all costs because it's so sticky and can come off on your fingers. But again, you can get Tech Wrap transfer tape too, which may work better, and it also sticks really well on the item. Then finally, Ritrama. I had used this piece 3 times I think, so it did take a bit of pushing down as I went, but pretty easy to take off, and again easy to apply. And so yeah, you can see they have all stuck really well and look similarly raised on the notebook as well. Now let's take a quick look at the cost of each one. I'll compare them both in dollars and pounds where I can, and they all come in different sizes, but I'm going to try and work out the price for a 5-foot roll for each one just to make it easier to compare. Obviously this isn't taking into account deals you can get from some suppliers, so do always look out for those. Oracle is by far one of the easiest brands to find, especially in the US. So we can see here you can get a roll of that for $5.62, although it is currently on deal for $4.89 from Expressions Vinyl. And then here in the UK you can get the same size for £3.50 from Sparklecraft Vinyl. Easy PSV is another easy brand to find supplies for in the US. Not so much in the UK though. I could actually only find 3-foot rolls for this, which are $3.25 from Expressions Vinyl. So similar-ish price to the full price Oracle for a 5-foot roll. And if you buy in bulk from somewhere like US Cutter, then you can get an even better price. Couldn't actually find a price in pounds. I could have sworn I'd seen it in Hobbycraft before, but they only had prices for Caesar's Iron-On vinyl, which is really good as well. Perhaps I'll do an HDV comparison at some point. Now on to Ritrama. This is what I use for my business because I can get such good prices for buying in bulk. I will pay at most £4 for a 5-meter roll, so I think that is about £1.20 for 5-foot. But I couldn't find prices for Ritrama in dollars. I should have thought a bit more about this before I chose which ones to compare maybe, but never mind. I would say that Avery Dennison or 3M are similar types of brands if you can find those in bulk as well. These rolls work out as essentially $2.30 for 5 feet. Tech Wrap's 10 feet rolls are $10.90, so again around $5.45 for 5 feet. Although they do have their economical series from $8.90, but then their colour changing is a bit more at $12.90. In the UK, for a 5-foot roll, it is £7 from Sparklecraft, so double the price of Oracle, but Tech Wrap have such good specialty vinyl like glitter and holographic, so they are the brand that I would recommend for those types of things rather than just standard matte vinyl. Finally, onto Cricut Smart Vinyl. You can often get this on deals, but at the moment on Cricut US it is $9 for 3 feet, so $15 for 5 feet. You can of course just get premium vinyl or the newer value vinyl, but I do think the main reason you would want to get Cricut vinyl would be for the smart feature if you have a compatible machine. Then in the UK, smart vinyl is $7.49 for 3 feet usually, but even on deal at $5.24, that's still £8.70 for 5 foot. I personally wouldn't buy Cricut vinyl, but I mean if you see a good deal or want to use one of their more specialty materials, then it is worth keeping an eye out. Obviously, one other important factor is the durability of these brands. It's just a much harder thing to test because you need to do it over a longer period of time and kind of under multiple conditions. I can say though that we've had a tech wrap decal on our car for over 2 years now. It has not budged. And I've also used Rich Armor on like cups, mirrors, signs, and they have stayed there for years without moving as well. I would think it would be quite similar with the other 3 brands as they're all permanent vinyl. But if you're thinking of selling outdoor decals or things that need to last a very long time, then it's worth looking into brands that specialize in kind of very permanent vinyl and do a bit of testing yourself. So in conclusion, I think for me, Oracle was the best for cutting, weeding and applying. However, I do love Tech Wrap's specialty vinyl selection. The price of Rich Armor is just so good for me, and I never get any customer complaints about it either. People are always really happy with the quality of it. I would probably consider using Cricut Smart Vinyl more if I had one of the newer machines. And while the Caesar PSV didn't come out on top, my favourite cutting machine is my Caesar Juliet, and I really love Caesar Easy Weed HTV as well. So they are definitely a brand to consider. Of course, these are only 5 of many vinyl brands available. There are tons of others out there. If you want to know the best places to buy them, I do have a list of suppliers in Cutting Machine Confident and also in both of my business bundles as well, if you're looking for suppliers for a decal business. Which one is your favourite, or do you have any other recommendations for me to try? Let me know in the comments, and thanks so much for watching. Please follow and subscribe for more videos like this in future.